Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. And for today's episode, I wanted to follow up on a recent revelation relating to the ongoing lawsuit by Ethan Klein versus the Hassan Orbiters. As I'm sure many of you are aware, various people that are associated with Hassan Piker decided to start restreaming Ethan Klein's content, even though they had been previously told by Ethan Klein not to do this, and were doing it anyway. And then, not only that, they, in their videos where they streamed it, basically announced their motive. They said, we are doing it for the purpose of taking money away from Ethan Klein, denying him traffic. We want the money. He's a bad guy, so he shouldn't get the money. We are doing it to deprive him of the views, the money, the revenue relating to this. And we are going to watch his video in total and restream it to you. And that we know that we're doing this, and this is our goal and purpose in life. So that was pretty bad, because not only do you have these restreaming of the content itself, which potentially you could get into a fair use analysis depending on the nature of the reactions and stuff. So potentially, but the fact that they say we're doing it for this purpose of denying him money, denying him revenue, denying him traffic, that is not a legitimate purpose. In fact, it is specifically against the copyright fair use. It's factor number 4 of the fair use analysis. It directly infringes in the purpose for why you're doing it. So you were already doing bad because they basically ran headlong against into every single factor of the fair use analysis. They use the entirety of the work. They're doing it for a commercial purpose, for their own revenue. It is a work of creative work, and they're doing it, and it impacts the market for the work. Those are the 4 factors of fair use. They're using all of it. So that's bad. They know they're using all of it, right? They are doing it for commercial reasons. They're doing it for their own financial benefit. It is a creative work as opposed to a work of pure fact, like a phone book would be an example of a factual work, right? It's just an assembly of facts. That's one end of the copyrighted spectrum. This is the other end. This is a work of creativity. So it's a creative work, and they're stripping revenue, and their purpose is there. So they basically run headlong in every single factor of the fair use analysis. Every single factor is going against them. And also they've confessed to it and basically announced in mustache twirling villain style that is their goal and purpose. So if there was any ambiguity to any of this, they have told us, ha 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 ha, let me announce to you my plan. Let me tell you my plan and motive. Let me tell you that the various people involved in this, I'm doing this for this purpose and goal. It is my motive. It is my goal and motive in life. I am doing it for this reason and for this purpose. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, they gave the bad villain speech basically, and it's like, well, Ethan lawyers are just having a really good day because it's like, well, do we really have to sit here and argue this? Do we really have to do this? And of course, as I noted earlier, he had already told them to not do it anyway. So all that stuff, and they knew they were doing it. And also, of course, they were doing it together in a conspiracy because they had formed this subreddit where they had announced this goal where various people were going to participate in this restreaming together in a coordinated effort to do it together for the mutually agreed upon purpose of, denying him the revenue, which makes it a conspiracy, which of course, conspiracy law 101, everyone in the conspiracy is now liable for everything everyone does in the conspiracy. This is why it's bad to join conspiracies. Because even if you don't know about the thing, as long as they are doing it in furtherance of the thing that you've agreed upon, as long as it furthers the goal and objective of the conspiracy, you eat it. I had no idea that so-and-so was doing it, but he did it to further the objective of the conspiracy, so you eat it. You eat it like you did it yourself. This is why it's bad to join conspiracies. Don't join conspiracies. Well, it got a little bit worse somehow. It got a little bit worse, and here's how it got worse. And I'm borrowing this from Asmongold's stream, who was borrowing it from Legal Mindset stream. So we got a little inception going on. And we have this post in the chat, Reddit r slash leftovers H3, in which Roman P says this wonderful quote that is just going to make Ethan's lawyers very happy. He says, "Not concerned at all. Balancing work at Reddit and being the head moderator for H3 Snark has been kind of stressful, though." H3 Snark would be the group that posted this agreement to did it with the approval of the mods, and many of the mods were directly involved in it and posted this agreement, and he's the head moderator who did it, and he's also an employee of Reddit. Great. That's just great. That's just great. Let me explain to you where you went wrong. If the magic words you're looking for here are respondeat superior, are the magic words you're looking for. When a company hires somebody, they are responsible for anything that person does within the scope of their employment because they are an agent of the business, right? I mean, this shouldn't be this complicated. The business has hired you to do a job. So when you're doing that job, you are the business. You're not yourself. You're the business because you've been hired by the business to work for the business, and you are working and engaging as the business, right? I mean, this isn't super duper complicated, and you've agreed to this, and perhaps more importantly, your employer has agreed to this. Your employer has hired you to be their agent. You're their agent. You are doing things at their direction, on their behalf, in their name, for the purpose of furthering the business objective. Right? I mean, that's the short definition of employment, right? It's not super duper complicated. Which means that just like any agent, the principal, which is the person that hires you or commands you, is responsible and bound by the acts of their agent when they are acting within the scope of the agency. It's not super hard, right? That's the whole point. You hired the agent to do things on your behalf in your name. And then when they do the things on your behalf in your name, they've done it on your behalf and in your name. And you hired them or commanded them or extolled them to do the thing. So you're responsible for it under standard agency theory, right? At the risk of like trying to just use a simpler example to make this simple, let's suppose that you're Domino's, the corporate entity, and you hire a guy to be a pizza maker and delivery driver, as you might do as Domino's. So you've hired this guy to work in a Domino's. When he's there, he's doing things on behalf of the corporation. He's making pizzas on behalf of Domino's, the company, because Domino's has hired him, right? And then when he drives and eventually shows up at your door, assuming you've called directly Domino's, assuming you dialed them directly and didn't use like Uber or something, so this is their driver, right? They're going to show up in a Domino's shirt with a Domino's box and a Domino's receipt, and when they knock at the door and you say, "Who is it?" they're going to say, "It's Domino's." And they're not lying. It is actually literally Domino's. Literally Domino's is standing at your door at this moment because this guy is an agent of Domino's. That's why he exists. So when he says it's Domino's, he's not lying. He really is Domino's in that moment because that's what he was hired to do. So if he does anything in the making of that pizza or in the scope of delivering the pizza that causes harm to somebody, Domino's eats it because they did it at Domino's direction. So if he makes the pizza poorly and it's not sanitary, or he uses rotten ingredients, or he hits somebody in his car, or somehow when he's delivering the pizza to you causes some sort of injury to you in that process, or whatever, right? Domino's, the corporate entity, eats it because he is Domino's. They're one and the same. That's the concept of respondeat superior. Right? He's the actor on behalf of the company. And so the same thing applies to Reddit. Of course, Reddit is a corporate entity. They are a company, and they have apparently hired this guy, and apparently, potentially within the scope of his employment or with the knowledge and approval of Reddit, is the HUD moderator for this subreddit, right? So if Reddit is commanding it, aware of it, encouraging it, directing it, then in that moment, he is Reddit because he's acting on their behalf, which means it's no longer this asshole who's doing it. It's no longer Roman P who's doing it. It's now Reddit who's doing it. Great. That's just great. So, yeah, basically, welcome to the party, Reddit, I guess, because your employee, with your knowledge, approval, direction, whatever, is moderating a group. And if Reddit's trying to say, oh, I don't know, I didn't know. It's like, was he doing it at your direction? Yeah, then you just eat it. So Reddit basically is on the hook. So that's great. So Reddit now gets dragged into this lawsuit, which of course is a deep pocket. And that's super exciting. So, yeah. So it just makes it complicated. And of course, this of course means that they can get discovery from Reddit now to explore this issue. And anything else they find along the way from internal emails, messages, from between employees of Reddit that suggests a command relationship, all that could be wonderful fodder to expand the scope of this lawsuit beyond the immediate into other issues. Because if there's evidence to suggest that if there's evidence to suggest that employees of Reddit have created a campaign that is more more arcing, right, to try to do things beyond the immediate copyright issue, beyond that into other issues, now suddenly you're thinking about tortious interference, right, with respect to other contracts or other arrangements that Ethan Klein might be trying to do, that they're trying to undermine in a tortious way. So you're thinking about tortious interference. You're thinking about harassment, because now it's the company that's doing it, right? It's no longer these guys who are just messaging you and DMing you and whatever. It's no longer them. It's now the company who's doing it in a potentially coordinated way for harassment, which means that you're looking at negligent infliction of emotional distress or even intentional infliction of emotional distress, because they were doing it for the purpose or recklessly to cause him harm. And if that manifested in harm in any way, which, maybe it did, then, you're on the hook for that too. Plus other fun things. And of course, as I mentioned above, the wonderful thing here is that you've got a conspiracy, which means that not only is Reddit on the hook for anything their employee did, but Reddit's potentially on the hook for anything that any of them did as part of the conspiracy. So if Ethan is able to show that their moderator went outside the company to create things for the purpose of furthering the business objective that he was directed to do, if it can be shown that that was part of the business objective, then suddenly Reddit's on the hook, not only for their own employee, but potentially all these people, and vice versa. They're all on the hook for what everyone did, which is super duper exciting. So basically, Ethan Klein's lawyers are going to have a lot of fun here. They're going to start sending all kinds of fun letters to Reddit, one would assume, and bringing them into this beautiful, beautiful disaster, all because this asshole said, yes, it is me. I am the head moderator of this group, and I, an employee of the company, am doing things because I'm employed by the company. And so these people just can't help telling on themselves and confessing. They can't help confessing to their purpose being illegitimate. We're doing it for the purpose and goal of trying to take away his clicks, likes, revenue, exposure. We're doing it specifically as his market substitute. That's just brilliant work. We're doing it to steal his revenue and gain revenue of our own. That makes it commercial. They're obviously using the whole work. Yeah, it just gets worse and worse every passing moment. So my view is everyone's basically going down. And of course, it's just straight copyright infringement on top of everything else because it's not sufficiently, creative. And even if it were at this point, even if it somehow would otherwise meet the fair use analysis, if they somehow wanted to argue it was transformative, which it isn't, but even if you could otherwise argue it's transformative, you really can't now because you've mustached twirled stating my motive is illegitimate, which would prevent you from arguing it, if not legally, then equitably under unclean hands doctrine. So it's all forms of bad. So everyone going down. So I'll answer a few more questions if there are any things. Yeah, the factors for violation of copyright law should not be used as a how-to guide. Yeah, and preferably you shouldn't be saying, yes, I am doing it specifically for things that are forbidden reasons under the fair use analysis. That you probably shouldn't say that. That'd be great. It's like RICO. Well, it's never RICO, and I wouldn't recommend bringing RICO because civil RICO is very disfavored. But you don't need civil RICO. Standard conspiracy will be fine. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The lawyers have found deep pockets? Yes. And not only that, they found access to a mechanism to get discovery that they might otherwise have difficulty getting because now they can get it directly from Reddit because they're now a party. So that's fun. Karen Cars 10 says, my favorite thing about being an employer is that employees believe they can act how they feel because their feelings are more important than business. So they don't get to be employees anymore. Yeah. See, when you hire someone, you hire them to act on your behalf. That's the whole thing. Do people not understand what employment is? I give you money. You give me work. The work is obviously on behalf of me. I've literally bought your time. So, yeah. Why does Reddit care? Reddit cares because they're now on the hook financially for reasons I've just been expounding on. How does it affect decision on damages? It wouldn't affect a decision on damages as such, probably. But it would make it easier to collect because Reddit has money. So, assuming that you get to the conspiracy, then you have joint and several liability, which means that everyone is jointly responsible because that's in the nature of conspiracy. When you join a conspiracy, you eat everything everyone did, which makes everyone jointly responsible. Everyone is collectively responsible for everything. And severally, which means you can also go after them separately. Joint and several. So you're all collectively responsible and all separately responsible. So when it comes to damages, when I get a number, I can come after any of you for all of it. See, that's how that works because you're jointly responsible. So if I got $10 million, I can come after any of you individually for all of it or separately in any fashion I deem fit. Normally you just do the big pocket thing because it's the easiest, but you don't necessarily have to if you're trying to make a point. So that's fun. Okay, well, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. That about covers it. I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful little discussion about the stupid. The stupid is getting very, very real. And basically, everyone is going down, including Reddit, probably. It's not going well. Their corporate lawyer probably silently shaking their head and wondering what they did wrong in life right about now. So we'll see how that goes. I've been on Civil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all is well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.